There was something about Maya that made people feel at ease the moment they met her. She had warm eyes, a gentle laugh, and a heart that gave freely without keeping score. She believed in love the way some people believe in the sunrise, not because they can prove it, but because they have felt it, and that feeling is enough. She lived in a small apartment with soft curtains and plants on the windowsill, the kind of place that felt like a hug. And for a while, everything felt like it was exactly where it was supposed to be. That was before Daniel. Not because Daniel was cruel in the obvious ways. He never raised his voice. He never said anything that could be pointed to as clearly wrong. But there was something in the way he showed up, inconsistently, warmly one moment and distant the next, that slowly began to rearrange something inside of Maya. She started measuring her days by whether he had texted. She started reading his silences like they were a language she needed to learn. And without realizing it, she began shrinking herself to fit into the spaces he left open. It started small, the way most things do. A message left unread for 2 days, followed by a voice note so warm it made her forget the silence entirely. A cancelled plan replaced by a spontaneous evening that felt so perfect she convinced herself the cancellation had never really mattered. Maya would pull back slightly, feeling hurt, and almost immediately Daniel would return, attentive, present, full of the kind of tenderness she had been quietly starving for. And so the cycle continued. She learned, without anyone teaching her, that her withdrawal was the only thing that reliably brought him close. She would sit in her favorite cafe on rainy afternoons, stirring her coffee slowly, watching the drops race down the window glass, wondering why she always felt most loved right after she had almost let go. The warmth of his attention in those moments felt so real. But warmth that only arrives when you threaten to leave is not warmth. It is strategy. She did not have the words for that yet. She only had the feeling, a quiet ache that lives somewhere between her chest and her throat. The kind that does not announce itself loudly but never fully goes away. One evening, after another message went unanswered, Maya sat on the edge of her bed in the dim light of her bedroom lamp. Her phone was face down on the pillow beside her. She had stopped herself from picking it up 17 times. She knew, because she had counted. Outside, the rain was steady and soft, tapping gently against the glass like it was asking to come in. She pulled her knees to her chest and just sat there, not crying, not scrolling, just sitting. And in that stillness, something shifted. She began to replay the last several months in her mind, not with anger, but with a kind of quiet clarity she had not allowed herself before. She thought about how many times she had rewritten a message before sending it, trying to make sure it would not push him away. She thought about how many conversations she had replayed afterward, searching for what she might have said differently. She thought about how often she had felt grateful for the bare minimum, as though receiving basic kindness from someone she cared about was something she needed to earn. The rain continued outside, the lamp cast a soft golden circle on the wall, and Maya sat in the middle of it all, beginning slowly to understand. The next morning, Maya woke up before her alarm. She made tea instead of checking her phone. She stood at the window and watched the street below. A man walking his dog, a child jumping over a puddle left by last night's rain, 2 elderly women laughing at something only they could hear. Life, continuing gently and without urgency. She thought about something her grandmother had once told her, that love should feel like coming home, not like waiting outside in the cold hoping someone will eventually open the door. She had smiled at that when she first heard it, not fully understanding. She understood it now. Over the following days, Maya began doing something she had quietly stopped doing. She began returning to herself. She went for long walks in the early evening, headphones in, watching the city soften in the golden hour light. She called her best friend and laughed until her stomach hurt. She started reading again, the kind of book she used to love before her attention had been entirely consumed by one person's inconsistency. She was not performing healing. She was not trying to make anyone notice. She was simply, quietly, choosing herself. One afternoon, sitting again in her favorite cafe, Maya opened her journal for the first time in months. The rain was back, gentle and familiar, blurring the world outside the window into soft watercolor shapes. She wrote without stopping, without editing, without worrying about how it sounded. She wrote about the version of herself that had spent so much energy trying to be enough for someone who had never fully decided to show up. She wrote about how exhausting it is to love someone on their terms, in their timing, within the narrow windows they allow. And then she wrote something that surprised her. She wrote that she did not blame him entirely. Because she had participated too. She had accepted less than she deserved and called it patience. She had mistaken anxiety for excitement and called it chemistry. She had confused the relief of his return for the joy of being loved. These were not failures, they were lessons, arriving exactly when she was ready to receive them. She closed the journal and looked out at the rain. Something in her chest felt lighter, not empty, but spacious. Like a room that had been cleared of furniture it no longer needed. Maya did not have a dramatic moment of closure. There was no final conversation, no grand declaration, no scene that wrapped everything neatly. There was simply a morning when she realized she had gone an entire day without wondering why he had not reached out. And then another morning like that. And then another. She began to understand that healing does not always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives the way dawn does, so gradually you cannot point to the exact moment the darkness ended and the light began. She still believed in love. Perhaps more than ever, but she believed now in a different kind, the kind that does not require her to disappear in order to be seen. The kind that is consistent not because she has threatened to leave, but because she is genuinely valued. She walked home one evening through streets still damp from the rain, the last light of the day catching in the puddles beneath her feet. She was not waiting for anyone. She was not hoping for a message. She was simply walking, breathing, present in her own life. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like more than enough. It felt like the beginning of something real.